Hello and welcome to Experiencing Love. I'm your host, Philip Jocks, and I'm so glad that you're here. While cleaning up my desk a little bit, tidying up, I found some notes that I took from a recent event that I was at, and it all had to do with the game of life. I think it points to a larger thing, actually, just calling it the game of life, because not everybody calls it a game. Some people call life a party. Some people call life hell. No matter what you call life, that definition will decide what your life will look like, how you'll feel every single day, what actions you take, what people you meet. I choose to call it a game because for me, games can be fun. Games can be playful. They can be cooperative. They could also be competitive at times. And the thing about a game is, well, you can win or lose a game. So my focus is calling it a game of life so that I can win the game of life. I can do life the right way, or at least the way that's right to me, for me. And in my notes, I wrote down a few things that I felt mattered most in order to win, in order to play the best game of life. Things that I either already do or I am currently adding into my life. So for starters, I kind of mentioned this a little bit already, it's to decide what the purpose of the game is. What do you want your game to look like? As you know, not every game is the same. Every video game, even though on the same console, can have much different aspects, much different purposes. Same thing with board games, same thing with sports. They may involve the same muscles and the same actions, but their rules are different. So before you could even come up with the rules of the game, you need to know what's the goal. How do you win? What is the purpose? And I decide what my purpose is every single day. I decide, what do I want my life to look like? For me, my life is always about experiencing love. That's the purpose of this game. And for me, love shows up in many different ways. I show love to people through my actions. I show love to people through my time. The list can go on and on. And the point is, my purpose for my game is to love. To love, to give, to learn, to grow. So everything I do is around that. It's about that. Some people, for their games, they care mostly about, say, making as much money as possible, or impacting as many people as possible, or being the best at whatever it is that they do, whether it's a sport, whether it's a hobby, whether it's, I don't know, business per se. So, anyways, once you know why you're playing, once you know the purpose of the game, next comes the rules. And those who win at this game of life have as few rules as possible. Because the more rules that you have, the more likely you are to break a rule. And what happens to people who break rules? Sometimes they get a little reward. Sometimes they get a little bonus, not from the game, but they find a way to cheat the system. But ultimately they lose. Ultimately, their luck will run out. But if you play the game that just has as few rules as possible, where creativity can run wild, where resourcefulness is one of the most powerful things you can have, you are much more likely to win whatever game you are playing, whatever the purpose is. Have as few rules as possible and make them consistent for every single person you meet, for every single place you go to, for every single thing that you do. Make them consistent. And also know that it's okay if you break a rule here and there. Don't do it so that you can cheat the system, but if it happens, say accidentally, it's not the end of the world. Because one thing that really matters to me and so many of the people in my circles is that we don't take ourselves, or life for that matter, too seriously. I don't want to go through this game. I don't want to go through my days with a scowl on my face, stress that I'm not where I want to be, I'm not in first place. I'd rather celebrate all the little wins along the way. Because one last thing that is so important to remember is that other people will have different rules. They may have different purposes for the game. So when you meet someone who doesn't follow your rules, doesn't follow your standards, doesn't follow your beliefs, knowing that it's okay and knowing that they're playing their own game right now is so important to your own success. All of these statements that I just said are just examples of qualities or ideals that some of us may reach, some of us may try to bring into our life. I mentioned some of them already: creativity, resourcefulness, love, determination, passion, excitement, being active, being giving, being a smile. Really, there's so many ways to play this game, and there's so many ways to win. Winning just requires that you set yourself up for success, set yourself up correctly. And so I was looking at these notes and just thinking about my own life, realizing that my rules have changed. Over the years, I guess not only my rules, but also my purpose for my game has changed. I used to believe that the purpose was to follow the directions that someone else made for me. Someone else made a game, they had their own purpose, and gave me the set of rules and the steps to move forward. Back then, I really believed that the rules of the game were to follow someone else's rules. But that's not enough. It wasn't enough for me. I actually realized I was greatly missing what I wanted. Because whether we define it or not, whether we put it in writing or into words or into thoughts, or we don't, either way, we have our own rules. We've either adopted someone else's or we have our own. But even when we adopt someone else's, we modify them for our own lives, because our own lives will look different. When I realized that my adapted rules were different from the rules given to me, so it constantly felt like I was breaking them and losing, I decided enough was enough. I'm throwing away all the rules and starting from scratch. I decided years ago, what's my purpose? And I didn't have it very clear back then. It took me some time to figure it out. It took me time to ask myself all the questions I wanted. Like, what matters most to me? What do I love doing the most? Who do I love talking to the most? Why do I love all those things? Where did it come from? Where is it going? And I figured out that at the core of everything that I do, it's just love. Experiencing love, which is why I'm here, making these videos day in and day out. Because all any of us really want to do is just win at our own games. We want to celebrate. We want to glee, feel joy. We want to cheer and pat ourselves on the back. It's all natural, whether you admit it or not. So, while I may be behind with regards to my past standards, my past rules, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. Because this isn't a sprint. If all goes well, my life's not going to end tomorrow. Instead, life is this marathon. It's a long race, one where you have to pace yourself. But the more you train and the more you practice, the faster you can go. But the most important part is that distance. It's a far race. So I'm training myself for a marathon. I'm gearing up slowly, making sure that I don't burn myself out in the first mile. And I'm going to see it through to the end. I'm going to see a great race. I'm going to cheer and shout at every single mile marker. Because I know the power of celebration. I know the power of emotion when it comes to doing anything, really. For me, action comes from my emotions. If I'm not feeling it, it's much more difficult for me to do anything, really. Yeah, there's times when a sense of obligation comes in, but even that eventually wears thin. But when I feel driven and passionate and purposeful, it doesn't matter what you put in front of me, I'll get it done. I'll get it done with flying colors as well. Maybe the quality won't be the best the first time around, but you'll know that it's the best that I can do with the resources that I had. And maybe it'll just take a little bit more practice, but I'll get there. I will get better at anything that I'm doing if my heart is in it. So my message for you today is all about deciding right now, what is the purpose of your game of life? What's the fewest number of rules that you need to achieve that purpose? And let everything else melt away. All the rules, all the expectations. Have some fun. I know it's cliche to talk about fun in this way in these days, but I remember hearing this quote a couple weeks back where someone mentioned the way to win life is it's actually a race back to childhood. The faster you could get back to being that playful, kid-like self, the faster you're going to win. And I guess that's a part of experiencing love for me. Being able to have this playful fun, not this crazy fun for the stories later, but just this feeling of unbridled enthusiasm and excitement for the littlest things. Like sometimes it's as simple as picking up a really cool rock off the floor, or playing a game of hide and seek or tag with your friends. Even if you guys are all well into adulthood, there's so many ways to be a kid. When you look at a kid, one that is truly embracing their childlike nature, they are free. Notice how free a child truly is, and know that we all started there. We all started with this freedom, with this joy, with this curiosity for the world. And as the years go by, we added more and more rules. So maybe it's about time to get rid of some of those rules and replace them with some fun, with some celebration, with some games here and there. Make work a game. Make your relationships a game, and do your absolute best to win every single game that you create. Decide what's the purpose. Now, what's the purpose of my relationship, and how can I do that in the best way possible? What's the purpose of me going to work, and how can I do that in the best way possible? What's the purpose of exercising and working out? And how could I do that in the best way possible? And that doesn't mean most efficient. That doesn't mean with the fastest growth, unless that's your purpose. But it just means how can you do it in a way where you ultimately return to childhood, to that kid-like nature that I know is inside of you. So that's enough for you to think about. I hope you do give it some thought and wonder, you know what can I do right now to win? It doesn't have to be the ultimate victory. Maybe it's just the win for today. But what can I do right now to win? And I hope more than anything is that by the end of today or by the end of tomorrow, you get that small win and you cheer and you celebrate and you clap, no matter if there's 1,000 people around you or nobody. Give yourself that gift. I promise you, it is worth it. So until next time, just remember to always fill up with the love. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I love you.